Hi, I'm Bob Falco. I want to discuss with you ways that you can continue to enjoy driving, no matter what it is, your truck, your pickup truck, your sedan, your race car, without having to spend as much on gasoline. As Americans, we know that we need these cars, but we also know that we want to enjoy them. However, the price of gasoline and diesel fuel has reached such levels that it has really started to curtail our enjoyment of driving. It certainly is curtailing our driving habits. This is not necessary. We have, for ages, been told that we need gasoline to drive our cars, and we don't. If we stay with gasoline, economists tell us that gasoline prices will remain high basically from now on to eternity, because the Chinese and Indians, Malaysians, Middle Easterners are growing in their use of cars and gasoline at a rate that no matter how much we find on our own soil, because oil is an international commodity priced internationally, we will continue to pay as high, and they're saying much higher, prices for gasoline and diesel fuel as we move into the future. So how do we get out of this? You need to learn a couple of things. You need to be smart enough to tell your congressman about the fact that you know that you can drive your cars on other fuels. Liquid fuels made from natural gas and organic wastes, and these fuels are alcohols, ethanol and methanol. You already know about ethanol. We make a lot of it from corn. That's one way to do it, but it's not the only way. Perhaps the better way is to use our natural gas to make methanol and to make ethanol. Both can be done. And these fuels run better in our cars than gasoline. They're cheaper, they're cleaner, and we need to understand that with very small modifications in our cars, we don't have to be frightened by the forces that be out there into believing that we cannot drive more cheaply, more safely, and because alcohols don't create the great fires and crashes that gasoline does, and more green than we are doing now, and be completely independent of the price of oil.
So who am I? My name's Bob Falco. I've been a professor of mechanical engineering for 19 years, retired now for quite a few years, and I currently lead the Institute for Energy Resourcefulness. This is simply an institute whose goal is to see how we can use the energy that we have in the wisest possible ways. One of the examples, and that's what this slideshow is all about, is in driving. We have fuels that we can make right here in our own country from natural gas and from organic wastes that we're not using in our vehicles. We instead think we have to use gasoline and diesel fuel. In fact, we don't. And so let's move along with this presentation and just see if we can make the point, get the point at home. Okay. Let's start with a simple example, your coffee. When you buy a cup of coffee or you make a cup of coffee, how would you feel if you were told that you could only drink it black? Or only with a certain kind of coffee mate? Or only with sugar? How about your TV? Let's talk about your TV. Imagine buying a TV. You get it home, you plug it in, and you find that there's only one station on it. No matter what the station is. But let's say that's the case. How would you feel? Another example. You have a computer. I'll bet you have a computer. What if you brought, just for argument's sake, an Apple, it could be anybody's, computer home, and you had to look at the warranty, and it said you couldn't use somebody else's software. You couldn't use Microsoft software or Adobe or whatever on it. Again, how would you feel in terms of the intrusion on your right to use this thing that you bought? An even bigger example is your house. So now you buy a house. You look at the mortgage and you see that it says you cannot make any improvements to that house. You just bought this house, but you're restricted to live in it exactly the way you bought it. How would you feel? So let's go to your car. You buy a car. You look at the warranty. Or you talk to the dealer. And they tell you, or he tells you, she tells you, that the only fuel you can use on it is gasoline. Well, you know exactly you're feeling right now. You say, of course. But the of course is absurd as any of the other examples we just went through. It's just that we've been brainwashed. Actually, there are many fuels that you can use to run your car. You know some of them. You definitely know gasoline. And you probably also know that gasoline has 10% ethanol in it in essentially all the pumps across the country. But it's very likely that you didn't know that there are pumps and there are places in the country that have 20% ethanol or 30% ethanol. Or you know about 85%. How about 100? Well, you could also run your car on methanol, the other alcohol, usually designated with a capital M. So you could run it on M10, 20, 30, 85, M100. This was done in California for 15 years. You could run it on blends of both alcohols and gasoline. So it'd be gasoline, ethanol, and methanol. Those are called GEM mixtures, and they are used in various places around the world. Not in this country, though. You could run it on butanol. That's an alcohol that is fast becoming commercially possible. And there are others. It is important for you to decide on, or have the option, the freedom to decide on the fuels you're going to use in your car, largely because of three things. One is these different fuels have different prices associated with them, and some are definitely cheaper than gasoline. The second is they have different performance associated with them, and some, if your engine is organized or tuned to use their capabilities, particularly the higher octane and alcohol fuels, will give you different performance and maybe better performance. And the third thing is that some of these fuels have lower emissions, so you will actually both pollute your local environment less and create fewer greenhouse gases for the earth as a whole by having the option to choose these. Let's go back to those everyday examples for a moment. What if a good friend of yours said that that coffee that you think you have to drink black would actually taste better with a little milk or a little sugar? I'm pretty sure that you'd feel that you could go ahead and try that. Or what if a good friend told you that your TV could be tuned to get more channels than that one that you were told by the salesman it could only bring in? And then, by the way, just by turning the knob, you could pretty much get a whole range of channels. Wouldn't you feel it was your right to do that? And on your computer, what if a good friend told you that you could use other software? That you weren't restricted to what the manufacturer told you in the warranty, and that you could put Word or Excel or Acrobat on there, and that your computer would be so much more useful. Again, how would you feel about being restricted there? Well, let's go to your house. So now it's a warm summer, and you're sweltering in your house. And what if someone came around and said, that warranty is invalid. They can't restrict you from putting air conditioning in this house. How would you feel about that? Well, now we go back to the car. Once again, let's say that we learned that your car could run on things other than gasoline, that it might even run better, that it might be cheaper, it might cause less pollution. Maybe you would need some mixture. You'd need a tank, a dispenser rather, that could give you the mixture you needed. Some mixture of methanol, ethanol, a sip of gasoline, for example. Wouldn't you want to try that? Wouldn't you want to feel that you had the freedom to give that a chance? I'm pretty sure that in all these examples, you'd consider yourself free to put milk or sugar in your coffee, or to tune your TV to any channel you want, or use any kind of software you want in your computer, or put air conditioning in your house, or add a room to it, or change the heating system. Well, then why not? Why do you feel you don't, or really shouldn't, have the right to choose the fuel that your car runs on? In our country, which we want to believe is a free country, these rights should all be available to us. They should all be inalienable rights. Manufacturers should not be in restraint of trade. We should have the freedom to, and the option to, change the way we use our coffee or our computer, what we do in our house, and the way we fuel our cars. Well, most of us don't really think about the restriction on fuel, that it is a fuel freedom that we are being prevented from having. But we know there are fuels out there. We certainly know there's ethanol out there. Many of us may know that in California for 15 years they ran a successful methanol program with over 15,000 vehicles, and that program ended with most people saying that it was a successful experiment. In China, in Brazil, in Europe, there are tens of thousands of cars running on methanol and ethanol. So, if you furthermore were told that your car could actually run better, it could be tuned for these fuels because they have much higher octane and they run cleaner, then you have to ask yourself, it's not just that I can afford that money for gasoline, that additional money, but my car isn't running at its optimum, and I really want my car to have the best performance that it can. What gets particularly upsetting is that, considering that we really feel we have a lot of freedoms, when we learn that there are people in Europe, in South America, and in China that can do these things. They can use these alternative fuels, and they have them available. We really sort of have to ask ourselves, shouldn't it be our right to be able to use these fuels? Wouldn't it be just to have the freedom to choose our fuel? Well, as it turns out, the only thing stopping us is our own inaction, because there are no technical roadblocks. There are procedural things, there are all kinds of things that have to be done to bring those pumps online, and et cetera, but there are no real technical difficulties because it is being done all over the world. Here are a couple of examples of some very neat cars that run on all three of these fuels. Any combination of gasoline, any combination of methanol and gasoline, any combination of ethanol, methanol, and gasoline. These are cars that you can buy in Europe. The top little green fellow is a Lotus sports car. There's a Saab sedan over on the left side, and a Ford Focus convertible on the lower right-hand corner. There's an interesting comment by Winston Churchill, who of course predicted the Iron Curtain and was quite a statesman. He said, "Americans will always do the right thing after they have exhausted all alternatives. The time has come to get off foreign oil." Now, cars can be made or converted to run on any mixture of these three fuels. It's possible that the order of $100 is involved. If it's done in a factory, it might be a bit more, depending on your car and the region of the country you live in. But it's not available to us right now. If it was, we could lower the price of fuel at our pump. We definitely can cut the noose of foreign oil that's tied tightly around our neck. We can have cleaner air, and we can lower the greenhouse gases of the world. Gaining this freedom really also will mean more money in your pocket in a number of ways. Yes, we just talked about cheaper transportation, but how about lower medical bills? You've got to realize that there are cancerous substances in current gasoline to keep the octane rating up where it is. Once they took the lead out, they had to put other things back in, and some of those things are well-known carcinogens. We also know that asthma is a big factor in terms of the emissions coming out of cars. Those medical bills will definitely go down. There'll be more American jobs. Methanol can be made from our own natural gas. It's a very good way to use natural gas. It could also be made from our own organic wastes, and we are the Saudi Arabia of organic waste. Ethanol can be made, as we know, from corn, but it also can be made from sugar beets and sugar cane. We grow sugar cane in Florida. We used to grow lots of sugar cane in Hawaii. All of that could come back. If we did this, there'd be more high-paying jobs opening in the United States. And our taxes for the military for defending oil supplies around the world would definitely go down. Okay, there's a bill in Congress right now. So we're not starting from scratch. This bill has been in there from about 2011, and it's called the Open Fuel Standard Act. It needs your support. Why wouldn't you want to support it? Why wouldn't you want this additional freedom? Don't you see that it really is something that you have the right to have, just as you do those examples of putting milk in your coffee and putting air conditioning in your home? So you need, if you can, to contact your congressmen and senators and tell them you feel that this is a freedom that you deserve. Okay, so telling your politician is really an important way to get this freedom to you. But telling your car dealership is another important way to do it, because the manufacturers might, if they understood your desires, actually do this on their own. Okay, for more information on the details here, there are reference lists on a SlideShare site, Bob Falco, and there'll be additional information here on the YouTube site. The other slideshow, which is also voiced over, might give you the kind of detail that gets you to feel that this is a real possibility. So I just want to conclude by asking you the question, why shouldn't you have the freedom to choose the fuel you drive on? Why shouldn't you?